Is that the kind of stuff that makes you want to stick around in WWE and just make sure you're here for the foreseeable? And
that was such a polite way of saying, have you re-signed yet? Speaking of big talents who are doing great things, our next guest,
some space.
future IC champion Chad Gable.
That's how I like to get it. Introduced, all right. Hey guys, how are you?
Very well. How are you? Let's just
great.
adjust this mic. We had Nick Aldis in before.
Oh yeah,
Who's a bit
he's
of
a big
tall
man. A man's man.
There you go.
How you feeling, man?
I feel great. I'm excited. These shows always get me kind of in my athlete mode, if that makes sense. Like I was when I was an amateur wrestler, you know, when they're big events like this that I train a little harder for, I get a little more excited for. So it's going to be fun.
Well, I mean, congratulations on just getting to this point tonight, because
Thank
obviously
you.
it's a huge match. We were just saying, out of all the matches, like this is the one we are super excited for.
guys.
Absolutely.
But it's testament to you, it's testament to Sami and Otis and this long-term story that's playing out on TV. Just talk to us a bit about that. Like, how did it come about? Has it kind of grown organically? Is it something you pitched? Because it's been so brilliant, and we've been talking about it every week on the show and how much we love it.
Thank you, first of all. What a compliment. A bit of both. You know, it was organic in a sense that once it got rolling, we kind of, you never really know what's going to take off with our audience, you know. But I will say the whole idea to turn heel was kind of my idea.
Okay.
I felt like I had almost flatlined as a babyface somewhere around WrestleMania. Come up short against Gunther a few times, then short against Sami. And at a certain point, something's got to change, or the people, they're not going to buy into you any further.
Yeah.
And so I, had the idea, let's do it. And it just so happened that we were going to be in Montreal, Sami's hometown, the week after Mania when I was having that match. And I'm like, man, there could not be a better place to do this thing. So we made it happen, and the stars aligned perfectly, and I feel like it just worked out in our favor. And since then, man, I mean, Otis is this perfect, sympathetic guy that you can't help but feel bad for, So really, we've just got everything in our favor working for us right now, and it's great that the story's going so well.
It's amazing. Max?
for you personally, now a lot of fans were very disgruntled the fact you didn't get it done with Gunther in November around that time. But for you personally, how important was that loss to where you are today?
Yeah, I think so. I saw that as my big opportunity, to break out as a singles guy, right? And I feel like I delivered, but only to the extent that they saw, yes, he can do it. I didn't win the championship. I've been here 11 years, and I still don't have a singles championship under my belt,
Until tonight.
Until tonight,
Glasgow
tonight.
Let's go.
So it was important to me to kind of try to keep that momentum going and say that wasn't it. We can keep this thing moving. And I think we did that. And I made some of those vignettes you might have saw online and stuff like that on my own to just kind of push this forward and go, I'm here to stay. I'm here to stay a singles guy. And that's what I see in my future. And I think we're going to do it.
I mean, your style of wrestling, everybody respects you in the ring. That's a no-brainer, the way you work. But I think throughout your tenure in the WWE, there's been elements of comedy aspects. You had some comedy aspects with Alpha America, even being Shorty G. And
yes.
How excited are you with this run right now? It's dead serious, no games. Are you loving this?
I'm loving it more than ever. I think people see that too. If you even ask Otis or my wife or somebody, I think this is the most real version of me, as scary as that might be. Minus the physical abuse stuff. But
Do you want me to take my belt off?
Disclaimer.
Want to slap this morning? But really, I think the comedy stuff helped me in a sense that it got my foot in the door in a way with our audience, to let them take a peek that this guy's more than just a wrestler. And that was helpful in a sense that they bought into me then as a character side of it. So now they get a different aspect of that, and fortunately for me, the most natural and real aspect. Because I'll tell you what, when I go out there and we're doing, you need promo sag or whatever it is, I don't need anything. I don't need any help. I just I'm in the zone. I've never been so free and just comfortable, not searching for anything to say, not searching for my direction in the ring or anything. It just happens. And it's like, when you get to that point, man, it just feels like magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always say the best comedy performers, comedy is hard to do.
Sure.
Not many people can pull off real good comedy.
Sure.
So when they can, you know they can do the serious stuff really well as well.
Yeah. And I think a part of that comes too, that I was lucky that the comedy stuff came with Otis. And I mean, a lot of people know now that we're like best friends going back forever. But a lot of that allowed us just to be ourselves the way we would be at home or in the gym or wherever. And when our audience sees that, they can sniff that out. They realize that, like, this is real. Like, I can buy into this. Whereas when you're trying to force it or just force entertainment or force yourself to be funny or whatever, or clever, they sniff that out too and they don't buy into it, and it kind of gets lost. So I think having Otis there by my side has helped a lot this whole way.
I was chatting to Piper Niven yesterday. Obviously, a huge weekend for her, being in Scotland. But she was saying she is very happy that Doudrop is dead. Do you feel, and fans feel that as well?
Sure.
Do you feel that way about Shorty G?
Oh, probably tenfold over what she said about Doudrop. You know, the thing about it is, right, at the time, I wasn't doing anything when I got cast as Shorty G, and I was begging for opportunity. So that's what I was given. And I'm not a guy that's like, I've never been a guy that's going to ask for something and then complain when I'm given whatever it is. And so I embraced it as much as I could and ran with it. Obviously, I would have preferred something else. But what it did, I think, also in like the fans' minds almost, is gain a little respect for me in the fact that, like, I didn't walk away or I didn't like try to avoid it or just like phone it in, you know, when I was given that. I tried to buy in and give them everything I could. And I think that garners a lot of respect from people, so that when you come out the other side, they say, this guy stuck it out. He's been through this, that, and the other thing, bad gimmicks, and he's still here. And now he's finding his way.
And also sympathy, in a way, because it made fans look at you and say, he deserves better than that.
Sure.
So you know from that they're behind you.
Which is so helpful. And such an honor when I hear people say, anytime I hear people say you deserve better, that is such a compliment to me, because that means that they know what I'm capable of, you know, the same way I do. And just to touch on the Shorty G thing as well, like even recently, Hunter, when I talked with Hunter recently, he didn't so much as apologize, because it wasn't his fault, it wasn't his idea, but he made sure that, tell me, I know you've been through some crap, gimmick-wise and creatively, and that going forward, we're going to avoid that stuff, and we're going to make the most of what he knows I'm capable of. So that meant a lot coming from him too.
Nice.
So, yeah, just on that, so you speaking to the boss, and I guess those words resonate with you.
Sure.
And is that the kind of stuff that makes you want to stick around in WWE and just make sure you're here for the foreseeable, and you kind of see there's a pipeline for you and some growth and trajectory?
That was such a polite way of saying, have you re-signed yet? Pretty much.
So what I'll say, yes, I have.
Yes! Yes!
Set to stay.
Is that an exclusive for us?
That's an exclusive.
Okay, lovely.
So
he's staying. Yeah!
Loving it. Congrats.
What I'll say, thank you, regarding Hunter is, when he got started with us, took over, I think you saw my trajectory change almost immediately. I started getting, even when I was still on the tag team with Otis, I started getting a lot of singles matches with some of our top guys. And to me, a light bulb went off, and it's like, well, things might be different now, and they have been ever since. He's delivered on pretty much everything he's ever told me. When I first came to him, and me and Otis were kind of floundering, not doing much, and he said what he was doing was trying to find consistent places on TV for everybody every week, whether it's just a little chunk of TV or a big one. Everybody should be involved at some point. And at the time, I'm like, oh man, I've heard all this before, and and it gets to you. But then I saw that it was true, and it was delivering. And even if we only had a minute or 2 minutes on TV every week, we were getting it, and we were involved in something and maximizing our minutes. And so the fact that he delivers on what he says, I think, has gone a long way for someone like me. And now I think that's paying off tenfold, because I'm having the run of my life right now, and I'm just having a blast.
So James and I, a few years ago, we had the honor to see you wrestle with at the time, your tag team partner Jason Jordan,
Sure.
against the Revival in Texas for NXT.
Yeah,
Okay.
Dallas, I think.
And Dallas, which was one of the best matches I've ever
One of
seen.
the best nights, man.
Do you miss working with Jason?
So I still get to work with Jason,
Yeah,
fortunately,
yes,
as
you
a
do.
producer,
Yes, you do.
which is
Yes,
so
you do.
cool.
Yes, you do.
You know, I think he tries to take my matches whenever he can as a producer. But we had just, we gel so well together, man. And especially now that he's producing, we've always understood each other from the get-go. You know, going way back to our backgrounds are similar, and we're similar in age, and it just transferred to the producer role with him. Like, he gets me, I get him. And do I miss wrestling with him? 100%. That was some of the most natural, like it was lightning in a bottle, man.
Yeah,
they just put us together, and it's like, oh, this is working. And so the run we had over here, the first UK tour we ever did with NXT, when we came over here in December of 2015, it was just like such a special time in my life that I'll never forget, because these crowds were next level. It was like they were just clamoring to see us, and I just won't forget it, man. My daughter was on the cusp of being born, like, any day, and we were over here for like 8 days, so I'm like, just hold out for me to get back. So, like, did that whole tour, which was insane, like, time of my life, and got back, and she was born like 12 hours later. So I was like,
Wow,
we made it.
that's a great time. I want to quickly ask you about 2K24. So our headline sponsors of Gorilla Position. Are you much of a gamer, and are you enjoying the new game?
Not as much as I used to be, but I have played the new game. My son is addicted to it. He does play it as me. Fortunately, I was glad to see that.
Excellent.
Unless he's wrestling Andre the Giant, then he refuses to pick me, because he says I just couldn't possibly beat him.
You're never going to beat Andre.
I don't know, whatever has got in his head about that.
It's a great game. Thank God he didn't choose Sami to play as.
That would be he'd get grounded, or either maybe just kicked out of the house for that. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, you take your belt off and say, this is going to hurt me a lot more than it's going to hurt you.
Do you ever shush your children with a shush, please?
They shush me, actually. they never say thank you, but they shush me all the time. So.
But I'm glad you brought up the shush, because in a kind of Jericho kind of way, who can sort of get the littlest things over, like, you know, the click of a pen or the word it or whatever it was at the time.
Bubbly,
But, like, do you see that, and do talents backstage see that as a bit of a challenge? Like, I wonder what I can get over and kind of.
So the funny thing, at least in my experience so far, the more you try to force it, the less it works. You know, because the shush thing and the thank you thing I never sat home and thought about, oh man, I can't wait till I get my chance on TV to go out there and say shush. It's gonna get over huge, man.
Yeah, now you say it like that.
It's just like, you know, like,
that's a good point.
I just did it one day by chance on TV, and same with the thank you. I don't even think I meant to say it like that. I was just obnoxious and feeling the moment and said it like that, and I'm like, I heard the people and heard the reaction, and the boys are popping in the back, and I'm like, well, I have to just keep this now, and then you never know. You never know what's going to work, and I'm just fortunate it did. So, like, I just find, don't try to force it, man. Just let it come.
Yeah. Max, over to you.
I was just going to ask about, obviously, everyone else now that you work with, Tozawa, Maxine. Like, do you play any, like, obviously on screen, you're the coach, you're the leader of the team, but behind the scenes, do you play any other part in kind of, helping to get them maybe some, whether it's more TV time or like up to speed with Maxine that's still new to the business?
So with Maxine, it was interesting because, I mean, you guys probably know, a lot of people probably know, she got called up with like no experience, very little to no experience, especially in ring. So when we were doing the stuff with her where she first joined our group, I mean, she was learning on the job, man. No, who else could say they've done that on Raw, on the main roster? You know, that's insane. So especially starting the new year, and not lately so much because the schedule's been so crazy, but once the new year hit, me and her were like getting in the ring a lot before the show and like working on stuff, because it's not like she has the time to go to the performance center every day and train. But she does when she gets the chance at home, and she was putting time in the ring before TV, which is awesome. And Tozawa, man, he's just a guy that, like, if you're a fan of the business or you know what he's done before this, you know how good he is. You know how incredible he is. Yeah. And he's one of those guys that to get his foot in the door as well with our audience and stuff, he's done a lot of comedy, which he's incredible at. He's a hilarious guy. But man, once he gets the chance to like really show out, you know, in ring wise, he's gonna blow people's minds. And he does every time he gets the chance, whether it's against Bronson or against big guys, he's incredible. but he's such a talented performer. He's a great guy to have in the group. We've got just like this eclectic group of just weird personalities that I think he fit right in. You know, we're not one of those groups where everyone's got to be like stone-faced and tough guy all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that what lends itself to like being relatable to the audience. Everybody sees a bit of themselves in somebody in our group, you know.
I was interviewing Cody Rhodes. It was many years ago now, but he was talking about the best wrestlers he's been in the ring with,
sure,
but also the wrestlers who he just had no chemistry with at all.
Yeah.
So he was saying for him it was Justin Gabriel.
Okay.
He said nothing against Justin, he's a great wrestler, but we just couldn't work it out.
Yeah.
It just always went wrong.
Yeah.
Is there someone, because you are such a smooth technician in the ring,
sure,
like one of the best in the world, I feel. Is there someone that you just don't have any good chemistry with?
Wow, that's a good question. No.
Okay,
you can make it work with anyone.
Yeah.
Okay, who would you say you've had maybe your least best match with?
Least best match. Wow. You know, it's less about, for me, sometimes it's about not delivering story-wise, because some of the in-ring stuff is not always, like, even if it doesn't go perfect, it's not that big of a deal as long as you tell the right story and deliver what you're supposed to do. So there's just been like times, and I'll try to think of one, but like times when you feel like maybe the match technically could have been perfect, but it just didn't click story-wise, or the crowd just didn't understand what we were doing or didn't quite feel it the right way. Those are the most disappointing to me, because we could have mistakes technically all day in a match and have it be gritty and kind of sloppy or ugly, and I wouldn't care all that much as long as like we told the story and got the job done. Then for me, that's a win. So when we fall short in that aspect, that's when it really bothers me.
So you got Kara Tozawa, Maxine,
Yeah.
and of course the incredible Otis.
Sure.
In this faction of yours.
Sure.
Is there anybody else you're looking at to bring in to help these guys rip them up into shape?
I've been talking to some people
Okay.
backstage here
Some
and
brothers?
there. So there's some brothers back there. Applications are not open right now, but I'm interviewing. Just know that I'm interviewing men and women. You know, we're looking to expand the crew. I'd like to walk out there with like 5 or 6 people behind me and just more people to berate and belittle. You know, like what's wrong with that?
We're talking about kind of perfect matches. Sean always talked about at Mania 25 with Taker, he had what he thought was the most perfect match he could ever have.
Sure.
And there were things that went awry in that match. Taker's jump over the rope. There were messy spots, but to your point, it doesn't matter because I was in the crowd that night. I was on the edge of my seat. It was such an emotional thing. For you, what is the greatest match you've ever seen in terms of storytelling?
Ooh. Storytelling. Well, my favorite match to watch that I could go back and watch every day is Bret and Owen from WrestleMania, because we've got brother, right?
Yeah,
the finish, the technical aspect, I think they delivered in like every aspect.
Absolutely.
You know, and
that was the opening match as
and
well.
an opening
Jeez.
match. That's part of it too. It's like opening match. To me, it's just flawless storytelling, and you get every bit of like the athleticism, but like the gritty pro wrestling aspect. And you know, those guys were just like so excited to go out and kill it and open the show. So that to me is like the epitome of basic like perfection in pro wrestling.
Would you say you studied Owen?
Yes, for sure. He's one of my favorites, especially as like I used to be a tape trader, a total wrestling geek. So
that's my boy.
His stuff in Japan, some of his stuff from like I'll watch his matches with Liger all the time, and I'm like just obsessed. So some of his early stuff, man, I love it.
And what about Bret? Is he a big inspiration to you?
Yeah, for sure.
And is that someone you've spent time with?
I've not spent time with Bret, but anytime people ask me about a dream match, he's at the top of my list, and a lot of times maybe the top. I feel like our styles are so similar. I feel like even when I had longer hair, I feel like we looked similar. I've even like considered switching to like the full trunks or tights and singlet gimmick like he used to wear, you know, because I think that's such a cool old school look that really not many people are doing anymore. But just a classic, perfect example of a pro wrestler.
And no one took a run into the turnbuckles better than Bret.
Yes.
Sternum first.
I'll give you guys one tonight. I'll top it.
Do you know, I was going to say, could you give us a sternum first turnbuckle
we
tonight?
might be able to make that work.
Please remember, if you do that, I will love you forever. I will love you forever.
You got it.
Mex? Any final questions?
So obviously we've got the Olympics. That's your background and stuff like that.
In
coming
London
this
as well.
year.
Yeah, in London.
Man, what
I know,
summer.
right up the road.
Yeah, and we got Paris this year, is it? Yeah.
Yep.
And that's your background, and we've seen, people cross over and stuff. The most recent one, I guess, was Gable Stevenson, which doesn't seem to have worked, sort of thing. Is there any kind of insight into maybe, why he couldn't make that crossover like some have?
I don't personally know the reason. I just know that coming from an amateur background, we are taught, or could be taught, I mean, it's very difficult to break your stone-faced mentality of just show no emotion, give your opponent nothing to play off of. If you can't break through that and allow yourself to be vulnerable and be open to the people, you're going to have a hard time here because
it's the exact opposite,
exactly.
isn't it?
And trust me, I struggled so much with that when I first started. That was the biggest challenge. Is like at the Performance Center, getting thrown in front of like 70 of my peers and being like, dude, give us a character, give us a promo. And it's like, what? And I'm just like full anxiety and don't know. And it took a long time to break that wall of the whole personality of an amateur wrestler. I mean, in competition, it's like, well, you're not going to make any money if you do that in pro wrestling, you know? And I don't know that that's what it was for him, but because the physical part of it, I can't imagine was a problem for him. He's a freak athlete in like a next level sense of the word, you know? So hopefully whatever he decides to transition to, it'll be football now. I hope he does very well. But for some people and amateurs, athletes in whatever sport they come from, just find out maybe it's not for them, and fair enough.
Yeah. Just to wrap things up, because I know you've got a very busy day ahead of your big match tonight, and thank you for all this time you're spending with us. We've talked a lot about how WWE is doing the best business at the moment. You know, we saw the kickoff event yesterday with a massive crowd. You know, and then SmackDown, and then the Clash tonight. What differences have you seen in the Paul Levesque era? You know, around WrestleMania time, there was all this talk of the Triple H era.
Sure.
What differences have you seen backstage personally compared to when Vince was running things?
Well, I mean, you go to a live event now, we're sold out almost every week on live events. That was not the case when I got called up. And when you see the crowd fill in before a show, and I'm talking our live events now, not TVs, not Raw, SmackDown, and there's like 8,000 people, 9,000 people at a show. I mean, the whole locker room is like, it's like a TV day. You know, you get so excited, which is so much different than having 2,000 people there. It's been such a pleasure to see this like boom period and a new growth period that we're in. And it's not slowing down. It's getting bigger and bigger. And especially I feel like now we've got this cool, unique thing where we're coming overseas and doing all these shows internationally. And the crowds are almost like competing with each other at this point, you know, and no matter where we go. And it's like so cool. You can feel it. You can feel they're like, we're gonna prove this time that we get the next premium live event, that we get. And I mean, that started in Paris. I remember a couple of years ago after the pandemic, we did our first show in Paris. It was unbelievable. And like, I don't know how many people were there. It was sold out. And they were just next level. It was like a pay-per-view crowd. Everybody on the show was an absolute star. They were cheering Baron Corbin like he was, you know, Hulk Hogan in the early 90s. And I was hitting people with baguettes, and they were just going crazy. It's like, where are we at? And from there, it's like we're doing that every week now, like with crowds like that. It's just such a pleasure to be a part of, man.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, it's a pleasure to have you as part of this podcast. The newly re-signed Chad Gable.
You guys got it first, man.
Congratulations.
Appreciate you, man.
Today, man.
Thank you.
How long's the new contract? 5 years?
Thank you,
Come on, at least 5 years. Okay, you've given
Thank you
us
so much, man.
Thank you, Chad Gable.
Amazing.
What a man.
Yeah, man.
Future IC champ. Future IC champ. Thank you.
Amazing.
What a guy.
Man.
Great way to finish this special episode.
I'm a champion!